From the outside, she looked like any other young woman, full of life and dreams. People saw her smile every day. They saw her walking to work, talking with neighbors, helping her friends. She laughed at the right times. She spoke kindly to everyone. But behind those smiles there was a deep pain, a pain that nobody could see. Inside her heart she carried a secret. It was not a small secret, it was a heavy one that broke her every single day. She could not have children, no matter how much she wished, no matter how much she prayed. Her body would never give her that gift. And for her, this truth was like a shadow that followed her everywhere. She remembered the first time she found out. The doctor had looked at her with soft eyes, as if words were too sharp to say. She remembered the silence in the room, the sound of her heart beating fast. When the words finally came, they cut her soul. "You cannot become a mother," the doctor said. At that moment, her world stopped. Her dreams of holding a baby in her arms, of hearing little feet running in the house, of creating a family, all crashed into dust. From that day, her life was never the same. Every time she looked at families on the street, mothers holding children, fathers carrying their babies on shoulders, her heart ached. She wanted to be happy for them, but the emptiness inside her kept growing. She tried to stay strong, but it was like fighting a battle that she could never win. The worst part was not the pain itself, but the questions from people around her. Relatives asked, "When will you start your family?" Friends said, "You are married, right? Then when will the good news come?" Neighbors smiled and whispered. Each question was like a knife. Each smile was like salt on her wounds. She wanted to scream and say, I cannot give birth." But instead she just smiled, hiding her tears. Nobody knew that after every wedding she attended, after every baby shower she smiled at, she went home and cried until her eyes turned red. She had dreams, she had love to give, but she felt she would never be enough. She thought, who will accept me like this? Who will want a woman who cannot give children? Her heart told her that no man would ever choose her. No man would ever make her his family. This thought broke her more than anything else. She carried this pain silently, day after day, year after year. Her mornings began with a fake smile. Her nights ended with tears on her pillow. Sometimes she looked into the mirror and asked herself, am I less of a woman? The reflection did not answer, but the silence hurt even more. Her loneliness grew, but so did her fear. What if the truth came out? What if someone exposed her secret? She imagined the pity in people's eyes. She imagined the gossip in society. She could not bear that, so she kept everything inside. Her life became two different worlds. One world was bright and happy, the one she showed to others. The other world was dark and heavy, the one she lived alone. At night she would sit near the window looking at the stars. She whispered prayers that no one heard. She asked God, why me? What did I do wrong? Why can't I be like other women? Sometimes she thought maybe she was being punished for something. Other times she thought maybe she was born incomplete. Her heart was full of questions, but the answers never came. People thought she was strong. They said, look at her. She is always smiling. But they never knew that her smile was just a mask. They never knew that under that mask, she was breaking every day. She was like a bird with wings, but no sky to fly. She was like a candle that gave light to others but melted in silence. Her secret pain followed her everywhere, into her friendships, into her relationships, into her future. She wanted love, but she was afraid. She wanted to be accepted, but she was sure no one would accept her. Her heart had become a prison, and she was both the prisoner and the guard. She could not escape, she could not forget. And so she continued living two lives, one that the world admired, and one that no one would ever understand. But little did she know, her story was not finished. The pain she carried would soon lead her to a man who would change everything. But for now, her life was only filled with silence, secrets, and a broken dream. After the day she discovered her truth, life felt like a glass that had already cracked. Every step she took made it break a little more. She tried to live normally, but her heart carried a wound that no medicine could heal. At first, she thought maybe love could fix her. Maybe if someone loved her enough, they would accept her truth. Maybe their arms would become her safe place. But soon she realized love was not enough for most people. She remembered her first relationship. The man was kind in the beginning. He promised her forever. He said, "I don't need anything else. I only need you." Those words gave her hope. They made her believe that her secret would not matter. For months she hid the truth, afraid that one day he would ask about children. And when that day finally came, her heart shook like a leaf in the wind. She sat across from him, hands shaking, voice weak. She whispered, "There is something you must know. I can never be a mother." The silence after those words was louder than thunder. He blinked, then forced a smile, but it was not the same smile she had known. Days later, his calls became short, his visits became rare, and then, without saying much, he left. Just like that, her heart broke into pieces, but life was not done testing her. Another man entered her life, charming and gentle. Again, she thought maybe this was the one, she told herself. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone will walk away. But when she told him her truth, his answer cut her like a knife. He said, "I want children of my own. I want to see my blood continue. Without that, I cannot stay." And he left without looking back. That night, she cried until her voice gave up. Her pillow wet with endless tears. Every broken relationship left a scar. Every rejection planted a fear in her heart. She started to believe she was cursed. She thought, "Love is not for me. I am not made for family. I am only made for loneliness." Her friends moved forward with life, one by one. They got married. They shared pictures of babies. They celebrated anniversaries. She tried to smile with them, but inside she was dying. At weddings she clapped and laughed, but when she returned home she sat in darkness, the echo of celebration still ringing in her ears. She felt like an outsider, someone standing outside the window, watching happiness but never entering. People's words made her pain heavier. Some said softly, "Don't worry, your time will come." Others said harshly, "A woman is nothing without children." Every word was a hammer hitting her already broken soul. She wondered why people could not understand, why they could not see that their casual questions were knives. But society never stopped. It kept pressing her, reminding her of what she could never have. Slowly, she began to hide more. She avoided family gatherings. She avoided neighbors. Even when she met someone new, she built walls around her heart. She thought, "Why should I let anyone in? They will only leave when they know the truth." She told herself it was better to be alone than to be abandoned again. But at night, the loneliness screamed louder. She missed the warmth of love. She missed the idea of belonging to someone. She longed for arms that would hold her, for a heart that would call her home. But every time she remembered the past, her hope collapsed. She could still hear the voices of men who had left. She could still feel the silence of their absence. It was like carrying ghosts inside her. Ghosts of love that never lasted. Ghosts of promises that turned into lies. Her broken dreams haunted her. She had once imagined herself decorating a nursery. She had once imagined hearing a child call her mother. She had once imagined growing old with a partner who accepted her fully. But now those dreams felt like ashes. No matter how hard she tried to hold them, they slipped through her fingers. One evening, as she sat alone, she whispered to herself, "Maybe I am not meant to be loved. Maybe I am not worthy of a family." Her voice cracked, her eyes swollen. She felt small in a world that celebrated families and children. She felt invisible, as if her story did not matter, but somewhere deep inside, a tiny flame still burned. It was weak, almost gone, but it was there. A part of her still wished, still prayed, still hoped that maybe, just maybe, someone different would come. Someone who would see her pain and still choose her. Someone who would say, "You are enough, just as you are." She did not know it yet, but her story was not over. Her broken dreams were only chapters, not the end. And though she believed love had left her forever, destiny had already started writing a new page. A page where her pain would meet a heart that understood. But for now, she was still lost in the shadows of broken dreams. Her days looked normal to the outside world. She woke up, got dressed, went to work, and greeted people with a smile. But when she returned home and closed the door, her world was completely different. Her home was not filled with laughter, not filled with voices of children or warmth of a partner. It was only silence, heavy silence that wrapped around her like a chain. She fought this silence every day. It was a lonely battle, a war that no one could see. When the world was asleep, she sat awake, staring at the ceiling. Her mind replayed every rejection, every cruel word, every empty promise. Her pillow often carried the weight of her tears. Yet in the morning, she wiped her face, stood tall, and wore her mask again. The world believed she was strong. They thought she was independent, brave, and unbothered. But inside, she felt weak, broken, and invisible. She wanted to scream, to tell people how much it hurt to be alone. But she knew they would never understand. How could anyone understand pain that had no scar, no bandage, no visible wound? Her loneliness became her biggest enemy. It followed her everywhere, while walking on crowded streets, while sitting at her desk, while looking at photos of happy families online. Even surrounded by people, she felt empty. She felt like a ghost, watching a world that did not belong to her. Nights were the hardest. In the silence, her mind became louder. She asked herself questions that had no answers. Why me? Why can others have everything so easily? Why can't I be enough for someone? The walls of her room heard her cries. The moon outside her window became her only listener. She often sat near the window, hugging her knees, watching the stars. She wondered if somewhere in that vast sky, there was a reason for her pain. But the stars never spoke. The sky only stared back. Sometimes she tried to fight her loneliness with distractions. She buried herself in work. She forced herself to attend parties, but nothing could silence the emptiness inside her. The laughter of others only reminded her of what she lacked. The sound of children playing in the street was both beautiful and unbearable. She loved their joy, but each giggle was a reminder of her loss. Her friends noticed her absence. They called. They asked her to join their family dinners, their weekend trips, but she found excuses. She said, "I am busy," or "I don't feel well." The truth was, she could not sit at a table surrounded by couples holding hands, children running around, parents proudly talking about school achievements. It was too painful. Every smile she forced in those moments cost her hours of tears later. Her heart wanted connection, but her fear built walls, she thought. If I let someone close, they will leave once they know my truth. So she pushed people away before they could hurt her. This battle between her heart and her fear made her life heavier each day. It was like she was standing on two roads, one leading to love and one to loneliness. But no matter what, her feet kept walking back to loneliness. In her darkest moments, she began to question her worth. Was she even worthy of love? Was she worthy of happiness? She looked into the mirror and saw not a woman but a failure. She whispered, "Maybe the world is right. Maybe a woman without children is nothing." These words crushed her more than anyone else's, because when you start believing the lies of the world, the battle inside you becomes almost impossible to win. Yet, even in her pain, there was a strange strength. She woke up every morning and faced the day. She smiled at people even when her own soul was crying. She helped others, listened to their problems, gave advice. Nobody knew the woman who gave comfort to others had no one to comfort her. She carried her pain like armor. The world saw her as brave, but she knew she was only surviving, not living. Still, somewhere in her heart, a small hope flickered. She wished that one day someone would look beyond her pain. Someone would fight the walls she had built. Someone would see her not as incomplete, but as whole. But until that day came, she continued her lonely battle. Every night she fought her tears. Every morning she rebuilt her smile. Her battle was silent, unseen, but it was real. And even though she believed she was fighting it alone, destiny had already chosen a moment when her loneliness would meet light. A light that would not erase her pain but would hold it. A light that would not run away but would stay. But until that day, she continued her lonely battle, one step, one tear, one night at a time. Her life had become a routine of silence and survival. She woke, worked, smiled, and returned home to fight her invisible battle. She had stopped expecting surprises, stopped waiting for miracles. Her heart was tired. Her hope was weak. It seemed easier to live without expecting anything at all. But destiny often comes quietly. It does not knock with noise. It enters softly, like a whisper. And that whisper came into her life one ordinary afternoon. She was standing in a crowded market holding a bag of groceries, when suddenly she dropped one apple on the ground. Before she could bend down, a hand reached out and picked it up. When she looked up, she saw him, a man with simple clothes, a gentle face and kind eyes. Those eyes did not rush her, did not judge her. They simply looked at her as if they had known her pain without a word. He smiled softly and said, "Here, I believe this is yours." She thanked him politely and turned away. She had no space for strangers, no interest in new faces. But his eyes stayed in her mind. Even after she walked away, days passed, and she saw him again. This time at the bus stop, he greeted her with the same gentle smile. Not too much, not too little, just enough to feel real. She nodded back, keeping her distance. But again, she could not forget those eyes. There was something in them, something calm, something safe, something that told her he was not like the others. Soon, small moments began to add up. He held the door open when she entered a shop. He offered her a seat on a crowded bus. He asked, nothing personal, only spoke about the weather, the traffic, or the book in his hand. Yet every word he spoke felt lighter than the heaviness she carried. He never tried to impress her, never tried to force closeness. He simply existed around her like a soft presence she could not ignore. At first, she fought the feeling. Her mind said, do not trust, do not hope. He will leave once he knows your truth. Her heart, however, whispered something else. It said, maybe this one is different. But fear was stronger than hope, so she built her walls higher. She kept her conversations short, her smiles guarded, her distance safe. Yet he did not give up, not in a pushy way, not in a demanding way. He was patient. Sometimes he simply sat beside her at the park without speaking. Other times he shared a story from his day. He listened more than he spoke, and when he laughed, it was never cruel, never sharp. It was the kind of laugh that warmed the air. She found herself waiting for these small meetings. She told herself. It was nothing, just coincidence, but deep inside, her heart was slowly opening. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her loneliness lift, even if only for a few minutes. Still, the fear returned each night. She whispered to herself, if he finds out, he will leave just like the others. Do not let him in. The battle between her heart and her fear grew stronger. Some nights she wanted to run away from him, cut all connection before it began. Other nights she found herself replaying his words, his laugh, his kind eyes. And in those moments, her heart felt alive again. One evening, as she walked home, she heard footsteps behind her. It was him, carrying a bag of books. He smiled and walked beside her. They spoke about simple things, the weather, the city lights, the music coming from a shop. But then his voice turned softer. He said, you always look strong, but I wonder, do you ever allow yourself to rest? Her heart froze. It was a simple question, but it touched the part of her she hid from the world. For a moment, she wanted to answer honestly, to pour out her pain, but instead she smiled and said, I'm fine. I always manage. He nodded, not pushing further. And in that silence she felt something rare, understanding without judgment. It scared her, because understanding was dangerous. If someone understood her, they could reach her heart. And if They reached her heart. They could break it. She lay awake that night thinking of him, his kind eyes, his gentle smile, his patient presence. She wondered, why do I feel safe around him? Why do I want him to stay? Why am I afraid of losing him even though he was never truly mine? Her fear grew, but so did her hope. It was the first time in years that hope felt louder than fear. She did not know yet where this path would lead. She did not know if his eyes carried promises or only passing kindness, but one thing was certain. Her lonely battle was no longer completely alone. A stranger with kind eyes had stepped into her life, and slowly, without even trying, he was changing the story she thought would never change. For weeks she lived in two worlds. One world was filled with the same loneliness she had always known. The other was filled with unexpected light, brought by a stranger with kind eyes. Every time he appeared, her heart felt alive. Every time he left, her fear whispered louder. She had grown used to hiding her truth. It had become her second skin, her unspoken shield. But now, hiding felt heavier than ever. Because the more he stayed, the more she feared losing him. And the only way to protect herself was to tell him. To speak the words that had broken her so many times before. Her heart fought against her mind. One part said, "Do not tell him. If he does not know, he cannot leave." The other part whispered, "If he stays without knowing, it is not real. He must know the truth." Every night she lay awake, replaying the possibilities. Would he look at her differently? Would his kind eyes turn cold just like the others? Or would he surprise her and stay? The questions tore her apart. One evening they sat in the park together. The air was cool, the sky painted with soft shades of orange. Children played nearby, their laughter echoing like bells. Each laugh was a reminder of what she could never give. She tried to smile, but her heart was restless. She could no longer carry her secret, not in front of someone who had shown her kindness without asking anything in return. Her hands trembled as she held her bag close. She took a deep breath and whispered, "There is something I need to tell you." He turned his head, his eyes steady, waiting. That patience made her even more nervous. For a moment the words stuck. In her throat her heart pounded like a drum, her palms grew cold, but she forced herself to continue. Her voice was soft, almost breaking. "I cannot have children," she said. The words floated in the air, heavy, final. She lowered her eyes, afraid to see his reaction. The silence that followed was sharp. Every second felt like a knife. Her mind screamed, "This is it. He will leave. He will say the same words they all said." He did not answer immediately. Instead, he stayed quiet. And the quiet was more painful than any rejection. Her chest tightened. Tears gathered in her eyes. She thought, "I should not have told him. I should have kept my secret." Her body prepared itself for the moment she feared most. The moment his footsteps would walk away, leaving her alone again. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm, steady. "Is this the reason? You always look strong, but your eyes carry sadness." Her heart froze. This was not the reaction she expected, not pity, not shock, not rejection, only understanding. But she did not trust it yet. She shook her head, whispering, "You don't understand. Every man I loved left me because of this. They all wanted children. They all wanted a family. I cannot give that. I am broken." Her tears fell, unstoppable. For the first time, she was showing someone the raw wound she had hidden for years. She expected him to step back, to let go of her hand, to walk away. Instead, he reached for her trembling fingers and held them gently. His warmth surprised her. She looked up, her eyes full of fear, but his gaze was still the same, kind, steady, unshaken. He said softly, "You are not broken. You are human. And family is not only about blood. Family is about love, about standing beside each other, about choosing each other. Children are a blessing, yes, but you are also a blessing. Can't you see that?" Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever told her she was enough. She wanted to believe him, but the scars of her past were deep. She whispered again, "What if you change your mind? What if one day you want children, and then, you leave me too?" Her voice broke at the end. The fear of abandonment still chained her heart. He tightened his hold on her hand. "I am not here because of what you can or cannot give. I am here because of who you are. If I wanted only children, I would not be sitting here with you now. I want you. I choose you." His words were simple, but they carried a weight stronger than promises. She looked into his eyes and saw no pity, no hesitation, only truth. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel something she thought was lost, hope. The tears did not stop, but they were no longer just tears of pain. They carried relief, they carried a fragile sense of safety. Still, a small voice inside her whispered doubt. Was this real, or would it end like before? Was he truly different, or would time reveal another heartbreak? She did not know the answer yet, but in that moment, sitting beside him under the fading light, she felt something she had not felt in years. She felt seen, she felt accepted, and though fear still lived inside her, she realized the truth had not chased him away. It had brought him closer. Her heart beat loudly in her chest. The truth was out, her deepest wound spoken aloud. Now she waited, frozen, for his reply. Every second of silence felt like a lifetime. The past had taught her one thing: when men learned her secret, they always left. Why would this be any different? She braced herself for rejection. She expected his kind eyes to change, to become distant, cold, just like the others. But when he finally spoke, his words were nothing she had imagined. His voice was steady, gentle. "You are not broken," he said firmly. "Do not call yourself that again. You are whole, even if the world tries to convince you otherwise." Her eyes widened. She searched his face for mockery, for hidden pity, but there was none. His expression was calm, sincere, almost fierce in its honesty. He continued, "Family is not only about giving birth. Family is about giving love. Children may be one way, but not the only way. Do you know what I see when I look at you? I see a woman who carries strength in her silence, who still smiles even when her heart is breaking. That is not weakness, that is power." Tears rolled down her cheeks before she could stop them. No one had ever spoken to her like this. For years, she had been told she was less, incomplete, unwanted. But here was a man saying she was enough. More than enough. She shook her head, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. Love fades when dreams of children die. That's what always happens. One day you might say the same words they all said. I need a real family. And then you will leave too." He leaned closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Listen to me. I am not here because of what you cannot give. I am here because of who you are. You are the family I want. If life gives us children in some way, we will love them. If not, we will still build a home because love itself is a family. And my choice is clear. I choose you." Her breath caught in her throat. Those words struck her like sunlight piercing. Through dark clouds, for so long she had been waiting to hear that she was someone's choice. Not out of pity, not out of duty, but out of love. And now, he had said it, but fear was stubborn. It clung to her, whispering doubts. She asked softly, "And what if people judge us? What if society says we are not complete without children?" He smiled faintly, a strength in his voice. "Let them talk. The world will always talk. People judged me before too for being different, for choosing my own path. Their words did not stop me then, and they will not stop me now. I am not building my life with society. I am building it with you." His words carried a certainty that shook her. For the first time, she felt like she was not standing alone against the world. For the first time, she felt like someone was willing to fight beside her. Her tears flowed freely, but they were no longer only tears of pain. They carried relief, gratitude, and the fragile hope she thought she had lost forever. She whispered, "Why me? Out of everyone you could choose, why would you choose someone like me?" He looked at her, his eyes steady. Because when I see you, I do not see what is missing. I see what is present. I see kindness. I see courage. I see a heart that still gives even when it is breaking. That is rare. That is beautiful. And I will not let fear steal that from me. Her heart trembled. These were not promises of perfection, not fairy tale words. They were real, grounded, spoken with the weight of choice. And that made them more powerful than any dream she had once imagined. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe, not fully, not without fear, but enough to let hope slip back into her heart. Enough to see that maybe, just maybe, her story could be different. The evening sky darkened as the stars appeared one by one. They sat together in silence. But it was not the heavy silence of loneliness. It was a calm silence, warm and safe. She no longer felt like she was carrying her pain alone. She no longer felt invisible. His unexpected answer had changed everything. It did not erase her pain, but it gave her something stronger than fear. It gave her a reason to believe in love again. And as they sat under the night sky, for the first time she imagined a future not filled with loss, but with possibility. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for certain. He had not walked away. He had stayed, and in staying he had given her something she thought she would never have again. Hope. Life did not change overnight. Her fears did not disappear in a single moment. But his words, the promise that love itself was family, stayed in her heart like a steady flame. For the first time in years, she walked through her days without feeling completely alone. He continued to stand beside her, not with grand gestures or empty promises, but with small, consistent moments. He called when she was quiet. He listened when she spoke. He held her hand when the world felt too heavy. And slowly, piece by piece, her broken trust began to heal. Months passed, and their bond grew stronger. People around them started to notice. Relatives whispered. Neighbors asked questions. Some smiled in support, but others judged. They asked him, why her? Why not someone who can give you children? But he only smiled and said, because she is my family. His answer silenced many, though not all. But for her, it was enough. Hearing him speak those words in front of others gave her strength she never thought she would feel. Their love was tested. There were days when old wounds reopened, when she looked at children playing in the street and felt a sting in her heart, when family gatherings became difficult because of endless questions. On those days she would pull away, afraid the weight of her pain would push him too far. But each time, he came closer instead. Each time he reminded her, you are not alone anymore. Whatever we face together. Eventually they married, not in a grand hall with hundreds of guests, but in a small ceremony, surrounded by only those who truly loved them. She wore a simple dress. He wore a quiet smile. When he placed the ring on her finger, his words were clear. With you, I already have a family. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were tears of joy. Their home became a place of warmth, not filled with the cries of babies as she once dreamed, but filled with laughter, kindness, and peace. They cooked together, shared stories late into the night, and built traditions that were theirs alone. For the first time she felt what home truly meant, not walls and furniture, but hearts connected by love. One day, as they walked through a park, they noticed a child sitting alone on a bench. His clothes were torn, his eyes empty with sadness. Something inside her stirred deeply. She approached him, asked where his parents were. He whispered, I don't have anyone. The words broke her heart. She looked at her husband, and without speaking, they both understood. That moment became the beginning of something new. They decided to open their hearts to children who had no one. Not out of pity, but out of love, they began fostering, later adopting. Each child who entered their home found safety, warmth, and acceptance. And with each child, her heart healed a little more. She discovered that motherhood was not only about giving birth. It was about giving love. And love was something she had always carried in abundance. The house that was once silent now echoed with laughter. There were drawings on the walls, toys scattered on the floor. There were hugs every morning. "Goodnight kisses every evening," her husband often said. "Look around, this is our family." And she smiled, realizing he was right. She was no longer the woman who cried alone at night, no longer the woman who hid from society's questions. She had found her place, her worth, her identity, not in what the world defined as family, but in the love they had chosen to create. Years later, when people asked about her story, she spoke with calm strength. She said, "I once believed I was broken. I once believed no one would want me. But then someone showed me that family is built by love, not by blood, and now I have more love than I ever dreamed possible." Her journey had been filled with pain, loneliness, and rejection, but it had also led her to acceptance, hope, and a love that stayed. Her scars did not disappear, but they became proof of her strength. And whenever she looked at her husband, whenever she looked at the children who now called her mother, she knew her story had not ended in loss. It had transformed into something greater, because in the end, she had found a truth that the world often forgets. Family is not defined by biology. It is defined by love, by choice, by the people who stay. And she was no longer afraid. She was no longer incomplete. She was whole because she was loved. And because of that love, she had built a family that was truly hers.